So here's something we haven't spoken about in quite a while. We're talking about The Witcher in this video. Now, The Witcher on Netflix obviously has had a lot of problems, okay? Especially in the later seasons, especially in the most recent season. And we're not even going to talk about the spin-off prequel. We're just not even going to talk about it. That is just unfortunately burned in my head, and I had to experience it. I wish I didn't, but yeah, pretty terrible. They haven't been very good lately. They haven't been very good, honestly, since the beginning. But the only saving grace for the Netflix was Henry Cavill. His passion for Geralt of Rivia was honestly incredible, and he is the only reason why it was even remotely bearable to watch The Witcher. I thoroughly enjoyed the first season for what it was. It was pretty damn good, even though it did not follow the source material at all, not in a way that I would really enjoy thoroughly, but it did not really stray too far enough for me to say, okay, I completely hate it. And again, it's only because Henry Cavill literally embodied Geralt. It was just insane. So with that being said, I found an article here from Bounding Into Comics that I think is pretty interesting because it comes from the creator of The Witcher, and he just recently came out and just completely lambasted Netflix, where it says Netflix never listened to his feedback on the live action series. And is anybody honestly shocked by this? You can honestly see right off the bat, just by watching the show, that they clearly were just doing it on their own. They had a couple of people read a little bit of the source material and they just basically went off from there. It's very obvious. So let's get into this article, guys, from Bounding Into Comics. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into the YouTube algorithm. It says, and it's a tale as old as time when it comes to the streaming giant. According to The Witcher original creator Andrzej Sapkowski, Netflix was completely uninterested in hearing his opinions regarding their handling of the seminal work's live action adaptation. The author provided this insight into his experience with the Netflix's The Witcher production team while speaking to Austrian video game news outlet Serial Killers during the recently held 2023 entry of the annual Vienna Comic-Con. Following discussions on his writing history, creative process, and what lies in store for Geralt in the future, the outlet eventually raised the topic of the live-action series, asking Sapkowski, when you visited Netflix on the set for the Witcher series, did you give them any feedback? Now, this is a very fair question considering how this show came out. And honestly, it's pretty apparent. Again, you can watch the show. If you haven't watched the show, you're more than free to do so. I probably wouldn't recommend it, especially since Henry Cavill is going to be exiting the show, not of his own volition. But still, the show just becomes complete and utter trash. The first season, like I said, was bearable and was pretty decent in certain aspects. But season 2 and the recent season is just completely garbage. I would not recommend watching that at all. So then he said, to this question, the author first responded by beaming over how well the set was tremendous. You know, tremendous. Everything. Before returning to the outlet's main question and admitting that while he had thoughts on the series' direction, they were ultimately discarded by its production team. Maybe I gave them some ideas, but they never actually listened to me. He laughed to Serial Killers. It's normal. Who's this? He's a writer. He's nobody. So yeah, they basically just told him to F off. They didn't even bother taking his ideas. The guy who created the work. And yeah, he's a writer at the end of the day. He's not a producer. He's not a director, but he is the one who you are adapting. His work, you are adapting. You need to give some respect to this man, and maybe he could have some damn good ideas about how to take his own IP forward in a live action version, right? I mean, am I crazy for thinking that? It says, notably, this is not the first time the storied author has offered such a lukewarm reception to Netflix's ongoing mess of a television adaptation. Asked by a fan for his thoughts on the live action The Witcher series during a recent appearance at the 2023 Taipei International Book Exhibition, Sapkowski unenthusiastically affirmed, I've seen better, I've seen worse. Further, Sapkowski is far from the only creator to have publicly claimed that Netflix ignored their input when adapting their work. Speaking of his involvement in Netflix's ill-fated television disaster during a 2019 interview with Japanese entertainment news outlet AutoQuest, Cowboy Bebop creator Shinichiro Watanabe detailed, I read the initial concept and provided my opinions, but I'm not sure if they will be reflected in the final product. Netflix's disregarding of Watanabe's feedback will later be confirmed by series leader John Cho, who during an interview with IGN admitted, we did not communicate with him. Now again, you're starting to see a pattern here, right? Because when it comes to Netflix, look at Cowboy Bebop. Canceled literally after the first season, almost immediately. They didn't even wait. They canceled that thing after the first month that the the show was out. That was a hilarious woke fail that was just it goes down in the record books, right? But you could see the pattern here. You could see that when you watch The Witcher, you can see that the source material was completely ignored for the most part. The same thing happened with Cowboy Bebop. When you watch Cowboy Bebop, you were wondering half the time, are you really watching Cowboy Bebop? Like, what the hell are you watching? It's the same exact thing. These writers who never actually created anything on their own, they just look and adapt something and feel like they could do it better. They look at a story and they feel like they can write it better, even though they never created anything themselves. All they did was just adapt something and adapt something and adapt something. That's all they've ever done. But they feel like they could take it and write it better by interjecting their own identity politics, or even if they don't go the identity politics route, ideology based, they feel like they could just change everything and just completely destroy the original and just do it better. That's what they think they could do. They have such an ego that they think they can't mess up. And look what happened with Cowboy Bebop. Look what happened with Resident Evil adaptation with Netflix. Look at what's happening with The Witcher. It's all the same thing. It says, likewise, in explaining his exit from the production team for Netflix's upcoming live-action adaptation of his and Brian Konietzko's popular animated series Avatar: The Last Bender, co-creator Michael Dante DiMartino affirmed in a joint announcement for the series, Netflix said that it was committed to honoring our vision for this retailing and supporting us and creating the series, and we expressed how excited we were for the opportunity to be at the helm. Unfortunately, things did not go as we had hoped. His creative partner Brian likewise told fans, when Netflix brought me on board to run this series along Mike 2 years ago, they made a very public promise to support our vision. Unfortunately, there was no follow-through on that promise. Though I got to work with some great individuals, both on Netflix's side and on our own small development team, the general handling of the project created what I felt was a negative and unsupportive environment. To be clear, this was not a simple matter of us getting in our way. He added, Mike and I are collaborative people. We did not need all the ideas to come from us. As long as we felt those ideas were in line with the spirit and integrity of Avatar, we would have been happily to embrace them. However, we ultimately came to the belief that we would not be able to meaningfully guide the direction of the series. And again, it's all the same thing. Netflix has a Netflix ideology. That's what it is. You know, when we say Netflix is going to Netflix, this is basically what we mean, right? Netflix is going to Netflix. This is what they do. And for anybody to act like this is a shocking thing, or for anybody to pretend as if Netflix is not going to Netflix, you're always going to be in for a rude awakening, right? This is why One Piece was such a major change for a lot of people's idea regarding Netflix, because Netflix actually respected the source material up until a point. And again, a lot of the changes that were done to Netflix's One Piece had Ichiro Oda's blessing. Like, he said, okay, that's fine. I want to do this with the show. I want to do that with the show. I want to hire this person for the show. He was the one behind that, so it was okay because he was changing his own material. So if he pissed off the fans, it was the original writer who was pissing off the fans and the original creator, not Netflix. But that is few and far between. The chances of that being a consistent thing with Netflix, I highly doubt it. Highly doubt it. Netflix can only not Netflix for so long. They are going to be so desperate to do something ideologically based that it's going to come out at some point. So yeah, One Piece was a good show, definitely did the source material justice, and was a pretty good live action adaptation of an anime. But ultimately, that's the exception, not the rule. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy, and if you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.